It's interesting you saying that people are much more equipped to recognize the truth face to face, and I'd like to think that's true. From my experience on the street, I used to think when I was in Oxford, occasionally people would ask you questions, and this was during lockdown period when tensions were high and people were polarized and so on. And sometimes you'd get, people gathering to listen to the discussion. So somebody was angry. I'm an NHS nurse. I've got to, isolate. And you're standing here in the street. I've just seen you hug somebody in greeting. And I particularly remember some young people, and they could tell. I know they could tell because the way they responded, and they were disconcerted by what I was saying because they could tell that I wasn't lying to them. I was on the street, and I had no motive to mislead them. Like, there's no financial motive for me there. There was no advantage to me standing in the cold. And I was telling them in as measured tone as I could muster that I thought that they shouldn't have taken shots, or they shouldn't be taking shots, and you could watch the impact. So I do think there's a power to speaking face to face. There definitely is something in that, and I definitely think that when you introduce a lot of the technologies they've introduced, like for example, I think Zoom itself appeared in the spring of 2020 in line with the lockdowns. So they were prepared for this. And if Zoom hadn't been there, I think the isolation would have got, or social media and the computers and the internet, I think the isolation would have got to people, and they would have potentially discounted the regulations earlier and quicker because they had a technological framework in which we could operate that kept us apart. And their strength is in keeping us apart. That was why they had the lockdown, so that we wouldn't meet in pubs and clubs and speak to one another in cafes and restaurants, so that you had to wear masks when you went to the lavatory in a restaurant, because otherwise you might smile at the passerby and you might literally remove the spell of the threat of the other person.